Welcome back to Upfront. A state Supreme Court justice appointed in 2016 by then Governor Scott Walker is seeking his first elected term next month. The April 7th election pits Justice Daniel Kelly against Dane County Judge Jill Karofsky for a 10-year term on the court. I talked to Karofsky last week on Upfront, and today we're joined by Justice Kelly. So thank you for your time.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me here.
So I know people label you a conservative. Both times I've interviewed you, you've said that you like to be called a constitutional textualist.
That's right.
But in making a few points, we said Governor Walker appointed you. You worked on the legal team that defended the maps Republican lawmakers drew in 2011. Republicans back you. Why don't you want to be called a conservative?
Because conservative versus liberal is something that addresses policy choices, and the Supreme Court doesn't have anything to do with policy choices. So we deal with the policy choices once they're already made by the legislature. So it comes to us as law, not as policy. And so our responsibility is to simply apply that law to the cases, to resolve them, come to our judgment, and that's it. So the people of Wisconsin have not asked us to exercise our judgment in deciding what policies are wise and which are not. They've just asked us to apply the law. So I like to make that distinction because it keeps the legislature and the judicial functions separate in the way they're supposed to be.
But even if you don't make policies going along with all these things we just mentioned, I mean, are you not a conservative, even in the traditional sense of the word? And I think that's something that voters do want to know.
Sure, and I think I think it's fair to say that.
Fair to say that you are one.
Sure. All of my colleagues on the Supreme Court and everyone on the Court of Appeals and everyone in the circuit courts, they all have their political beliefs and their political preferences. Our responsibility, though, when we put on the robe, is to put those things aside. And so that's why I make that sharp distinction. We all walk into the courtroom with our political values and beliefs and whatnot, but once you hit that threshold, your responsibility is to set it all aside and simply do the work of the court, and that's just applying the law as it is. Not as we might wish it to be, but as it actually has been adopted and maintained.
And I've noticed a few times that Judge Hagedorn, who's known as a conservative justice, has gone along with the liberal justices. I'm wondering if there's a time that you can point to where you've done the same thing.
Oh, good Lord. Yeah, you can go back and look at all of my opinions, and you'll find that I'll vote from time to time with the ones that are considered liberal. And in fact, there's a blog, it's Scalstad blog. It's run by a professor at Marquette University. And he's done an analysis of the opinions that I write, along with other members of the court. And what he does is kind of interesting. He starts out with what he believes he knows about my politics, and then he compares the opinions that I write and join, and he's looking to see if there's any necessary correlation between the two. And his conclusion was that there's not a necessary correlation there, and in fact, he called me a maverick. So there are too many opinions to mention where the breakdown that people who look at the court as a political institution hasn't panned out.
Is there just one example, though, you could get people at home who are saying, you know what, I want to vote for someone who I think will change it up and not just go by not already have their mind made up?
Yeah, well, as you might imagine, I've reviewed thousands of cases since I've come to the Supreme Court and heard hundreds of oral arguments, and I've written opinions on some of the most impactful matters in the state. So to pick a name of one of them is a little bit difficult. And then, part of the difficulty is figuring out, all right, so what would people expect to be not a politically derived outcome? Right. So in my focus just isn't anywhere near that. So I don't really track my opinions like that. The way I track them is, have I done a good job of using logic to move from the premises down to the conclusion to make sure that the conclusion is commanded by the law and not by my personal politics. So it'd be a little bit difficult sitting here without going back to the opinions themselves to figure out, well, this is a case that someone might figure a conservative would go one way and I went the other. So I just don't look at my opinions that way.
I had Judge Jill Karofsky sitting in the seat you're in now just last weekend, and I asked her about her ads in which she says, I'm running to stop corruption on the Supreme Court. I want to listen to her response, and then I'll get you to react to that. Great. So let's watch. Do you think Dan Kelly is corrupt? Is that what you're saying?
I think that Dan Kelly makes decisions on the state Supreme Court before anyone walks in the state Supreme Court chamber. I think that he has predetermined results that he wants to get to.
What's your response?
Well, I think that's, as I've told her, so this is not going to be speaking out of school. I've told her when she's sitting next to me, I think that's an ugly slander. And it's a slander because it's a lie, and it's simply not true. Now, I note that every single time that she says this, every single time I say, point to an opinion where you think we got it wrong. Point to an opinion where you think that we came to a result because of political influences rather than being what the law commanded. And she's never been able to do that.
I did ask her, and she talks about, she said, plucking the lame duck from trial court to Supreme Court.
Yeah. So, and did she explain to you why that would be a problem? I suspect that she didn't, because there is, that was probably one of the easiest cases that we dealt with all year. And it was one of the easiest cases we've ever considered on whether we should pick that out of the trial court and deal with the Supreme Court. Let me explain why. So in that case, there was a challenge to an entire set of laws that were developed during the so-called lame duck session. And both sides, both parties, were telling us that it was essential to resolve this case immediately, right? So they're both looking for injunctive relief, one to make sure that the laws stay in effect, one to make sure they didn't go into effect. But in those requests, they're both telling us it's absolutely essential that this be resolved now. Now, there was no reason for a trial in that case because trials are for resolving disputed facts. And there were no disputed facts in that case. Everybody knew what happened. The parties were not disputing facts. The legislature met. It adopted a set of laws. The only question in that case was, did the legislature have the authority to meet when it did? That was it. You don't need to resolve any facts for that. And both sides said, you got to resolve this now. We agreed that this was a matter of great public importance, that we make sure that these laws are either set aside because the legislature didn't have the authority, or they go into effect because the legislature did have the authority. So everybody involved in that case, and my opponent was not involved in that, everyone involved in that case understood it was important to resolve it quickly.
I do want to ask you, because you made some headlines this last week after Daniel Bice with the Journal-Sentinel wrote a column about how the day after the mass shooting at Miller Brewery, you had a fundraiser at a shooting range. I'm wondering if there was ever a moment where you questioned if that would be appropriate.
Yeah, no. The answer is no. And the reason for that is because these folks that I was with at the Wisconsin Firearm Training Center, they are concentrated on equipping people with the tools and the training necessary to protect themselves, their families, and the innocent folks around them from the kind of violence that occurred at Miller Coors. I don't see any reason to be concerned about that at all. I stand with those people who stand up for the weak, for those who are innocent, for those in need of protection, whether it's police officers, the military, or just regular people like you and me who are trying to protect themselves and their families and those around them.
Justice Kelly, thank you.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks so much.
WISN-TV and the Marquette University Law School will pair up for a debate with the candidates for Supreme Court on Friday, April 3rd. It will air on the Upfront network of stations. Our editorial partner, WisPolitics.com, writes a newsletter to keep you up to date on the presidential election in Wisconsin. You can sign up for Battleground Wisconsin 2020 newsletter at WisPolitics.com. Next on Upfront, it's a tough topic. We're talking about teen suicide. Coming into the second year here, how many times would you say students opened up about suicide to the Hope Squad? I'll tell you about the innovative program to connect teens with the help they really need.